Now I'm looking at it from a societal wise, no? Looking at it from the point of view of a larger society and the progress also of a society. Uh,
Hmm.
if there is a good leader, or if there is no good leader, does it have anything to do with the progress of a society or of a nation or of a community, as it were?
I think so. I think so. And that's where you see the results of leadership, right? I mean, like the way I work in the organizational world, and I think this is true of politics and societies as well, is, I equate a leader's performance with the performance of the organization. I equate a leader's performance with the performance of that country. You cannot have a good leader if a country's going in the wrong direction. A community leader is not a strong leader if the community is not getting healthier and happier and that kind of stuff, right? Our performance is equivalent to the societies or the teams that we lead, right? That's how you judge whether or not a leader is any good. It's not based on what I do as an individual. It's based on whether or not restless development thrives. Okay, and I would say the same, of a country, and and I think that's how you evaluate leaders. The flip side is as societies change and grow and learn, do they create different kinds of leaders? And I think absolutely, right? I mean, look at the way we talk about leadership nowadays. People weren't talking about leadership 20 years ago like this or 30 years ago. 30 years ago it was all kind of, how much money can you make and what's the bottom line and let's get big and it's all competitive and it's all that kind of stuff. And that's still around, right? But you've got a whole new generation of leaders talking about leadership in a different way that is, fundamentally more empowering. It's fundamentally more about the people we serve, and it's less about us as individuals. And why does that happen? Because society changes, and I think that's right. You need leaders who are at the heart of that change, right? You need leaders who are on the front end of that curve when countries or communities or the world is changing. You need leaders coming from the front end of that, right? And you don't need people who are not part of driving that change, right? Those are followers. And there's nothing wrong with being a follower, right? But unless you're part of kind of leading the way and fighting the way to create a better world or a better society, it's going to be hard to step into leadership and not be behind the curve.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Now, you are a leadership coach. I don't want to believe that when people come to you that you are lecturing, that you are building to become leader, you tell them that becoming a leadership is about biscuit and chocolate things. You tell them it is real. In fact, you made mention of it before that becoming a leader is hard. It's a hard work. So what I'm sort of trying to drive at here is that what are the key challenges of becoming a great leader? Because I really want the audience to understand that it's not just about the title, it's not just about you. It's a job, it's a responsibility, and this responsibility is real and it's hard. So what are the key challenges that a true leader face?
Good, good. I mean, there's a couple, right? I think one is self-care and well-being. I think a lot of people misperceive leadership and think that it gets easier as you get toward the top, and it doesn't. It gets harder because what you get is, you become more responsible and you're more accountable for a lot of people that you can't control, right? So if you think about it, if you're leading one person or two people in a team, right, it's pretty easy to make sure they do the right thing, right? Whereas, I've got 8,000 people across Restless Development. I don't know all 8,000 of those volunteers or staff. There's no way. I can't possibly know them, right? But you better believe if something goes wrong, it's going to come to me, and I'm going to be held to account for it, right? And and that's okay, right? But it means that you get increasing responsibility with decreasing control as you lead, and that's difficult, right? Now, but it's also really fun if you get your head around it, right? But the kind of the big challenge one is health and well-being, because you will get a lot of pressure. People will come to you, and I'm not trying to put people off of leadership. This can be done, right? But if you subscribe to kind of hustle culture or the grind, or I'm going to work my way through this and I'm going to be tough and I'm just going to work a little bit harder, that does not work. You will burn out and you will not last. Okay, the ability to take care of yourself, to balance leadership with life, to be able to unplug and turn off the phone, and to do that without your organization, failing. That's really, really important. And that's one I've learned the hard way. As a younger leader in my 20s, I worked way too hard, and struggled with kind of sustainable energy. And now I'm 40 and I've got two kids, and I'm still working. But what I do is I'm better about my hours, and I give myself permission to, finish on time most days, and to have my weekends, and to rest, and to play, and to have life, because I'm a better leader as a result. So that's one kind of thing to watch out for as a leader. I mean, the other kind of challenges are, I think, of ambiguity, right? And this is a tough one, right? It's all fine and fun to think about setting strategic direction and where are we going to go and what are we going to become, right? That's fun, right? But the difference between doing that and being a leader is, as a leader, you have to look into the future and you have to set a path, and you do not know the answer. And no matter what anybody tells you, none of us know what's going to happen in the future with certainty. And yet a leader has to lead a group of people into the future. And in today's world, it's even harder, right? Because the world's changing at an increasing rate. The world is changing faster than ever, and it's only going to speed up. So it's increasingly hard to predict the future. Who saw this pandemic coming, right? And yet at the outset of the pandemic, what do leaders have to do? We've got to go with pretty quick speed. This is how we're going to respond, and this is where we're going to go, and don't worry, we're going to be okay, right? And you have to give that energy and that support to your teams, but you also have to turn around to yourself and look in the mirror and know that you're not totally sure, because nobody knows what the future is, and you've got to carry that weight, right? And you've got to carry that pressure so that your teams don't. And I'm not saying that you have to sacrifice anything. I'm not saying it has to be bad or you have to feel bad, but you have to be aware that you don't know the future, but as a leader, you are accountable for success no matter what happens. And you could have another pandemic, you could have a world war, you could have an economic growth, you could have an economic collapse. All kinds of things happen out there in the world over which we have no control, but we must succeed as leaders, right? And that's pressure. Now it's fun too, because the flip side is you get to work it out, you get to figure it out, you get to be creative, you get to, get excited about the future, and you get to adapt as you go. But I think that reality of knowing that I'm responsible come what may, that's really heavy. And then the third thing here is also just kind of understanding that there is a degree of sacrifice that comes with leadership. Much as I like to say that I log off on time and I don't work long hours necessarily, I often think about leadership and what I'm leading, a lot, and when times are hard, I think about it even more. And, leadership takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of commitment. And it's not the kind of thing that you can do in a 9 to 5 all the time. Sometimes you're going to have to think about this. Sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice other parts of your life, and you have to choose what never gets sacrificed. So for me, it's like family. I'm never going to put my kids behind my job. I'm never going to put my wife and our family behind our job. You know what I mean? We will never do that, right? But I've quit playing sports to make time to be with my family, and to make sure that I can, be a full-time dad and a full-time leader. And that's okay, but that was a decision I had to make, right? And maybe when our kids are older, I'll get back to playing sports. But for me, right now, you have to be willing to kind of let go of some of the things that maybe you just simply don't have time to, so that you can be well and that you can prioritize the things that do matter. Because when you're at work, it's much more demanding than when you're doing a non-leadership role.